Okay, that's me. Welcome, everyone. This is a State Building Co-Council Executive Committee meeting for Friday, August 1st, 2025. I guess we'll start with roll, please.
Todd Bayworther,
Here.
Jay Arnold, Tom Young. He indicated he was not going to be able to make it today. Roger Haringa,
I'm here.
Tom Handy.
Here.
So we do have a quorum.
Okay, 3 out of 5, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else from the public like to be recognized? Or from the council? I have to open it up here.
So we got Patrick Hanks.
Okay, I see it now. Patrick, go ahead.
Yes, this is Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington. Thank you.
Welcome. Tim?
Tim Atterbury, Associated General Contractors of Washington.
All right, welcome. I see Peter on there too. Maybe we can bump him up if that's all right. Okay, thank you. Peter Reiki.
Yeah, I gave him a promotion. He
Gotcha.
he pops over.
Thank you. Okay, second item would be to review and approve the agenda as shown on the screen. Do we hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Then Roger. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm here now, so
All right.
it's Peter.
Welcome, Peter.
And I vote aye.
Okay, thanks. Any opposed? Okay, so approved. Justin, I'm seeing Josh over in the attendees too.
He'll be all right over there.
Okay.
He wants to raise his hand. We can promote him if he wants to be.
Okay. Third item is to review and approve the minutes from, looks like we have a couple, or this is April 4th?
Just April 4th.
Okay. Do we hear a motion to approve?
I'll do that. Motion
Thank you,
to
Tom.
minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Second by Roger. Any discussion on what we just looked at?
Dustin, would you page it on to the BFRW section? I was trying to review it and okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. No other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any
Jay is
opposed?
here.
And yeah, we'll recognize that Jay's here. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, so the first item we have here is a tag appointment, but Dustin, we just talked, right? This is for WUI, and unless Katie, I don't see her, is
Yeah, I
on, we
don't-
might have to push this one.
Yeah, I don't have a recommendation from Katie. Let me get the screen share updated here real quick and we'll show what we got going on. All right. All right, so this is the same sheet that we've had, and then what's online is just a highlight within the WUI code for a insurance, real estate, and appraiser representative. David La Riviera comes with 2 letters of recommendation, and has never served on tags before, and he works currently in the insurance industry, and I feel he's a good fit for the role. But since I don't have a recommendation from the chair, traditionally we have pushed this off to the next meeting so we could have that recommendation benefiting that appointment.
Okay, I'm glad to see someone in that seat. So if unless there's objection, we'll push this to the next council meeting.
There is an alternate chair here. Is that suitable, or do you want to wait for the chair?
I was chair of
Oh,
the.
that is true. Sorry, Pete, I forgot that Pete is the alternate chair for that tag.
So, sorry, I have some other business going on at the moment while I'm doing this, and that'll be done shortly. But I guess maybe I make a motion to accept Dave Levere in that position.
Yep.
Is that appropriate?
If that's, yep, if that's your recommendation, yep.
Okay.
I'll second the
Okay.
motion.
Okay. Yeah, I think the recommendation is probably clear enough.
Yeah, looked fine to me, so.
Okay. Dustin, you mind just clicking on his application real quick, or his resume, just so we can see it on the screen.
Right. You guys. So 40 employee branch offices. Well, he works in the insurance industry. Special projects director for the Building Association of Washington, Building Industry Association of Washington. Works with them to develop a property and casualty insurance program for their members. Is also a senior vice president of Conover Insurance. Works with city, county, and government entities regarding fire codes, building codes, reclamation, mining bonds, airport FAA bonding requirements, etc. And has been in the insurance industry for 30 plus years and comes recommended by BIW and some of his associates in the insurance industry. And I think he'd be a great fit for that particular role.
Okay.
We have a hand up in the audience.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's Patrick.
Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, first I have a question is, and I don't mean to be rude, I'm just wondering, is Peter on a member of this committee? Can he make a motion?
Oh,
We-
he made the, I guess he can't make the motion because he's not a member of the committee, but he is chair, so he offered his recommendation. So we would need to, I guess maybe assume that Tom is the first and get an appropriate second.
Well, I don't know. Have we done that in the past? It's a recommendation. I don't know that we needed a motion. So Patrick, if your question is, Peter is representing, he's the alternate chair of the WUI tag.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just
Oh,
wondering
okay.
Procedurally for motions for the.
Yeah, I just glossed over because I don't think we actually need a motion to make the recommendation.
That's fine. And then, yeah, I'll just say, I spoke with David this morning. He didn't know that, this would be on the agenda and so he had a conflicting appointment, couldn't make it today, but he's, he works part-time with BIW, but he has a long history in the insurance industry. And I was speaking with him, trying to find, folks to connect for the tag. Cause I think having somebody who understands the insurance side of that will be really important for the work that we end up doing. And, because he has only works part-time, he has some extra time and was willing to volunteer and kind of give back and help the state develop the next WUI code. And so I thought he'd be a good fit and look forward to having him help participate. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for helping with that, and we'll thank David for volunteering. Okay, with that, be appropriate if someone would like to make a motion to what's the verb I'm looking for?
Appoint Dave.
Appoint. All right.
I'll promote my second to a motion to appoint Dave.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Second, Jay.
Thank you, Jay. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? Okay. Well, thank you, David. That was the only appointment, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Agenda item, the next agenda item, I think, is IRC. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The for a tag proposal.
Okay. Do you want me to quickly introduce this and then you can run with it, Dustin?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the main focus here on the IRC is the council moved these down to the IRC. They've had 2 meetings this week and are digging deep on the existing amendments. Now the question becomes, we've had a window open and closed for the external petitions. Now the question is formally, how do we want to, as they start looking at the significant changes from the 2024, and there were some things that moved around quite a bit. And at the same time, look at the petitions. How do we want to ask the TAG to submit essentially amendments themselves internally? So that's the guidance there. I think they're looking for from the executive committee. And Dustin, go ahead and explain that better, please.
Yeah, so this part of our process, we're trying to stay in line with our timelines to come across this December. And so as part of that process, the significant changes in existing amendments reports are just now being reviewed by the IRC TAG, and they have not had the benefit of an opportunity to propose changes as a TAG, which has happened in the past and usually comes up the chain after review of the reports to the standing committees and then to the council. And then in the past, the proposal window for the public has opened after the reports generation is completed. And the TAG will then typically draft their proposals alongside with the public proposal window. And so right now we've had the public proposal window close, but the TAG has identified some other sections in the review of the existing amendment report to date, and there likely could be some other sections resulting from the review of the significant changes report where the TAG feels some amendment is necessary. And the guidance we're looking for is exactly how we're going to get those proposals and what would be the standard that we're trying to meet there. And my idea on that one is going to take us a bit more time to complete the review of the existing amendments and significant changes reviews. And at the pace we're going, I'm thinking it's going to take at least next week and potentially all of the following week. And let me, I guess, update my share here so you guys, I don't have a document to share for this one. So it's just a discussion topic. So we're just looking for a delineated process for the TAG to submit their proposals and keep us on our timelines towards the end of the year. And so the thought is to, after the existing amendment and significant changes reports are done, that the TAG members would volunteer / get assignments for specific proposals as identified by the review of the reports, and start drafting those proposals to bring to the council, hopefully by the end of September.
Okay. And I think the key here is I think this will work well. It just we need to make sure we give some guidance on how and what format they're going to submit these. Make sure we don't open up. It doesn't appear that we're opening up a whole nother window. Essentially, these are internally, if you want to call them sponsored, essentially changes. And so whether the TAG wants to split this up and go section by section and have a lead look at the significant changes and at the external petitions at the same time, and then make recommendations back. I think that's one possibility. Dustin and I, we talked, are we putting them on the petition form and then flagging those as to make sure that it's known that those are, that's a work product of the TAG. So it's an open opportunity here for the committee to talk about this and make a recommendation back. Any thoughts? Anyone confused? Go ahead, Roger.
I'm confused and have thoughts.
Okay, well, that's why we're here.
My general thought, and I want to get this out there as we consider this, and in fact, I'm also in communication with Patrick and Todd about the single exit multiplex housing and about how the process we're gonna go through to get that to the finish line. My general thought I want to get out there, and I recognize that I come from private industry and not public process. I just wanted to make the statement that it feels like at times we let process interfere with progress.
Mhm.
I think at some point, if we, we have a difficult time making our 3-year cycle, and there are a whole bunch of reasons for that. We don't get code, filling out tags, we don't get the actual code in time, and then we have this process we need to go through. So we are always going to be under pressure to make the deadline. It's always, with the number of codes we have to go through, it's always going to be a challenge. So I will just suggest that I want to respect the process for sure. I just want to be careful about taking too conservative an interpretation of RCWs in the process that we have to go through. At the end of the day, if we take a more aggressive interpretation of some of the RCWs, which would allow us to speed things up, I think that we need to do that. So I just get that out there in general, as we're fighting deadlines, which I understand, and we're always going to be. I just, again, process is important, but I think we need to also make sure that we're getting to the finish line. So with that, I had to step away a little bit as Dustin was presenting. I understand there are questions, concerns about how we are introducing code change proposals that we know have to be, it really is, I'm going to call it busy work of editorial stuff that the tag is aware of, and there needs to be a process for that to be formalized and added to the list. I want to make that as simple as possible. So comment and I think question, I don't quite understand the whole challenge yet, but anyway.
Okay.
I wanted to get out there.
Well, thank you, Roger. And ultimately, Angela needs to lead on how she wants to chair the, that committee or that tag. So go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I just want to talk about that, the process thing. I think it's always a pretty delicate balance. The process, I think, is made in order to ensure that there's adequate, professional and other public input, into these code amendments that we make. And so when there's the perception that there isn't enough of that, whether it's, based in fact or just based in, common public opinion, we wind up with even further delays, and having to kind of go back and redo things, which we've seen happen. So I don't know. I guess I'm not disagreeing with the entire, Roger. I'm just saying that how do we find that balance where we get the proper amount of input, where everybody feels they had a chance, and then still allow progress to be made?
Yeah, go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, Tom, I completely agree. And that's what I'm trying to find the balance as well. And so what is important in the process is that I think you stated it, there's the opportunity for public input and the opportunity for expert input, right? And it seems to me the question that is in front of us, and I may be completely wrong, and again, I missed a part of it, but I believe the question is how do we formally get some of these code change proposals on the list? Can the tag create code change proposals so that they're on the list? That process should be simplified so that is on the list, and so that we can get technical input and we can get public input. Following process to get a question on the list doesn't seem as important to me as getting it on the list so that we can get all of the input. So
yeah, I think this will be very straightforward. The intent here today is to be very transparent, that we are talking about it and help guide if we can, but not micromanage, the process. I think it'll be very straightforward. It's just that it is different than we did some of the other tags where we had more time. We were just on a compressed schedule, and we have to be efficient about it. And just as a reminder, what we're talking about here, in the past, when the tag would spend a lot of time, like for example, in the IBC tag on the significant changes, then that would result in internal, let's call them internal petitions from the tag. And then when we talked about all of the petitions, we would recognize that this was one that was flagged for a tag petition. So it's just being transparent about it. I think it might be as simple as on the, the petition form that, the tag talks about it, or a work group talks about it, flags it. It's highlighted in yellow when that is submitted as that change, and they're all considered together for each section. So okay, we'll take Patrick, you have your hand up. We'll take some public comment on this.
Yes, thank you. I think this is a good question to ask, and last year I think I started right after it was decided that the tags would submit code change petition documents. But in reading through the official policies and procedures of the State Building Code Council in WAC 5104-020, it says that the committees shall submit 3 different reports: the significant changes, the existing state amendments that are proposed to be modified or eliminated, and then all committee proposed amendments to the new model codes. The report shall be posted on the council website. So it doesn't go into explicit detail of what that process looks like, but I think that based off my reading of the official policies and procedures, you don't necessarily have to propose individual, the typical code proposal format document for each of those. The committee can just have a report, probably in a table. Here's the sections we're modifying, here's the code language. And then I think you could just identify, do you think there's likely to be a cost increase or decrease? Is it gonna, kind of the similar questions that the form has, you can just identify kind of up or down, and then perhaps send that to the work group on economic impact for more work. Or because it's coming from the Building Code Council, your preliminary cost benefit analysis should also kind of cover that. And if you follow the timeline, ideally those reports would be done before the external submittal window opens up. So if the public has any issues, they could submit. There would be a lot clearer understanding of what amendments they're going to keep, what new changes are coming in, and people can submit proposals off that. I think another good part of that is there's a number of things that the State Building Code Council has to do. And I think right now you're pretty reliant on amendments coming externally to deal with those statutory required code change proposals. And I think there's been a good shift of, like, on the single exit multiplex housing work, of saying, actually, we don't necessarily need to just rely on external petitions. We can certainly consider that, but the code language can come from the tag or the committee themselves. And so then it gives you an opportunity to plan in time of, let's review all the things we have to do and update the code language for that and have that on that report, and the public will be aware of it, and they can then submit things off of that. The tough part with the IRC is, because of the delays, the submittal window had to be opened up before any of these reports had been done. So that's kind of lopsided, but I think the existing state amendments report can cover some of the modifications we want to make. And then if there's anything new that the tag feels is necessary, we could create a third report and just clearly identify what we're doing and why we're doing it. And those would be tag recommendations to the committee that the committee can then approve if they want, and send that to the council, and the public could figure that out. So that was a lot, but thank you.
No, I think you captured. Thank you, Patrick. And I agree. I don't think we need to have the petition form. I think it's just good document control. And I think that's probably why it's being proposed, and unless anyone, but I agree with your statements that this is the work of the tag now, and this is internal work. Okay, go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, if I wanted to clarify and make sure we're understanding, Patrick referred to the delay. Am I correct in that was the delay in the IRC coming out from the ICC?
Yeah, we're going to get in that next, and Dustin, but go ahead and answer if you'd like, Dustin.
There's multitudes of delays. So that is part of it. There's a little bit of delay in the baseline document being available. but we've had some legal challenges. We had delay on the 2021 code. When the 2024 cycle was originally envisioned, it was envisioned to start March, the same month that the implementation of the codes happened. And so just going through the process and trying to get the reports out for group one, we tried a tack to get to try to collaborate with the tag to draft the reports. The feedback we received from some of the volunteers within those groups is that the time commitment was real high. And they were doing a lot of draft work that prevented them from actually doing a lot of the mind work to have the outputs input there. And so to try to expedite that, and did not succeed in expediting the process, staff took on the burden of drafting the framework of the report with the hope that the tags could review those drafts and come back and make their informed inputs to accept the staff recommendation or modify the staff recommendation. And so there was we're, as far as staff goes, we've got a lot on the plate to try to keep everything rolling at the same time. And so, not trying to name all the specific delays, but everything conglomerated together proved to a challenge for staff to keep things rolling at the same pace that we had identified in the original code schedule. We've tried to amend those schedules a little bit, and we've just not been successful in keeping abreast of those timelines that we're trying to establish. And it's, partly we got a lot work for a little people as far as staff goes, and we're really just trying our best to keep abreast, and trying to keep tag meetings down to a reasonable time limit as well, without so there's just a lot of challenges that are adding up to one big delay. And so that's kind of what I wanted to outline.
So if I can summarize, we are reliant on the ICC, which was late. We are reliant on a staff which is underfunded as far as the number of staff that we probably should have in order to get the work done. And I think that there's even one position that we haven't been able to fill. So there's that whole thing.
Well, that's an unfunded position.
Okay. So funding is an issue, and we rely on volunteers. So those are the three general reasons why we are challenged meeting our 3-year schedule that we have to meet. So again, anything we can do to simplify process to get us to the end, I'm in favor of.
No, it's a good discussion, and we're going to get in the next agenda item, but here we are, and we're going to do it, and we're going to do it correctly. And I think when all the dust settles, then, I think next year we can then review and make any changes to our policies and procedures and see what was most successful. But I do think, and thank you, Dustin, and team for that heavy lift. I think it did add consistency. So let's kind of evaluate that. And I think that was important because it was challenging the IBC. There was a lot of work done, and I know there's a lot of rework by the staff, to get the consistency it was desired. So here we are. We're doing it out of necessity, but we might find efficiency in it. So okay. Anything else on that topic? I guess the action steps are we'll just have this conversation and get Angela's input on. I think the thing in front of Angela next week is, as they start to transition out of existing amendments, are they really going to go one by one through that entire significant changes, or are they going to, start to divide up the work by section or however they want to do it, and start looking at each one of those pieces and then bring back recommendations to the tag. So I don't think we have to dictate that, and we shouldn't, but that's kind of what's on the table here. So I think as long as everyone's okay with that as an option of that they'll fill out petition forms, for document control, so forth. I think we kind of explored that a little bit in the BRFW, and I think there was certain aspects of it that was successful of being able to track and the documents and when changes were made and what the next base document was if things are coming together, right? Go ahead, Dustin.
I just like to say that I like Patrick's idea of not necessarily being, beholden to the proposal form, but to capture the same content there. That way it's clear that we've got tag recommendations coming forward, and then we've got external petitions from the public. And I think, I've got some ideas on that I'd like to float by Angela and Patrick. If you don't mind, I'd like to float them by you as a member of that tag as well, and try to come through and be ready for once we are approaching the, probably midpoint or the end of our reports review, to have kind of a more solidified and agreed upon by the tag route for those proposals to come in. And I'm thinking a spreadsheet with some, extra boxes in there showing language as is and proposed language to move forward, and then kind of forwarding that as a whole, like, as you said, a third report, which is something that, to my knowledge, hasn't necessarily come down. The proposed amendments have been coming as part of the existing amendments and significant changes reports, and on the code proposal forms. But if we can capture the same information in a more in a single document, I think it would be easier to digest.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah, I just wanna, so I think there is some ambiguity in the policies and procedures about creating the document, the list, which I think is good. And I think the focus for Angela should be, let's get the list started and get everything on the list so that we can have the technical conversations and the public can review it and have to get their input. That's the critical thing, is creating a list, and do that as quickly and straightforward so that there is document control and everything, but that should be the focus.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go back to attendees. Ken, tell us what we're missing, please.
Let me there you go.
All right, thanks. No, I don't think you're missing anything. Just that the only thing I'm worried about is just the time. I understand that, Dustin and Patrick were talking about maybe a new form, but we did use the existing petition form. Dustin did draft up kind of like a template for the fire code tag to use for submissions. The only thing is it's best if the individual tag member that's helping out's name is not on that, because I have been getting contacted by people from throughout the United States that will just search my name and petitions, and they'll pull up on something that I was a part of on the tag, but I wasn't the actual one that was, it was being represented by the tag and not me. So if it could just have, this just comes from the IRC tag, that would be great. I really don't think we have the time to create a new form. And if we did, it wouldn't be consistent with what we just did for the other tags. So I just think we should be consistent, use the current form that we have, and just do the same template thing that Dustin set up before, and just get these things moving forward as fast as possible. We're gonna get the work done. And everybody's gonna be burnt out when we're done with it, but we will get it done. But if we're trying to create a new form to get filled out, I think that's just going to take, just delay us a little bit more. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree, Ken. I think you nailed it. And I like that suggestion. That's always concerned me when my name or somebody else's name is on there representing really what is the tag. So let's highlight that in yellow and make it very clear that that's coming from the tag. Okay.
I like that.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? All right. Appreciate that. And then the next item is, we've already started. We're going to get into talking about what we need to do on overall schedule. Correct, Dustin?
Yes, sir. So the next part of our discussion here is our overall 2024 code adoption schedule. Everybody's painfully aware that December 1st is our statutory deadline to have final adoption occur. And as part of one of my main goals when I stepped into managing director for the SBCC staff is to make the process flow better, which I haven't been super successful on for this code cycle, but also to improve the reports that we're filing with our CR 102 documents and CR 103 documents. So the reports that I'm speaking of are the Small Business Economic Impact Statement, which has to be filed with the CR 102. Along with the CR 102, we are required to file a preliminary cost benefit analysis. And these are all Administrative Procedure Act requirements. So if I was gonna, I don't know if it's helpful if I bring up those statutes right now, but we're talking about CR 102 drafting, where we draft the changes to the WAC and give rationale statements on why we're making the change. And then as part of the cost benefit analysis, we're trying to justify that the benefit of any amendment we're making outweighs the potential costs there. So as far as the preliminary cost benefit analysis, the assumption is that we'll have pretty decent input there, go out to public comment, receive that comment, which may also include more input on that cost versus benefit analysis. And then at the filing of our CR 103 and final adoption, we have our final cost benefit analysis, which is required. But then we get into the small business economic impact statement. And that's something that is part of the Regulatory Fairness Act, which is contained in RCW 19.85. And the small business economic impact statement is a challenging document for staff to draft. It's challenging for proponents of code change proposals to provide enough economic analysis with those proposals to inform staff enough to draft these impact statements. But this is a report that's received some scrutiny in the past. And these two reports I had a hand in at the end of the 2021 cycle, and largely there's a lot of copying and pasting going on in those documents, and it doesn't read very well, and it doesn't necessarily justify our position very well. And that's the component that I want to improve upon is, having these reports that can withstand some scrutiny, and not necessarily shooting for perfection this code cycle, but I am aiming for improvement. And so the challenging part of this is that, we don't get a ton of economic input with the public proposals. Technical advisory group members aren't necessarily economists and things like that. They are probably in a better position to provide some economic input. But the short and skinny is that there is some additional work that has to happen to flesh out these reports and the information contained therein. And so with the timeline that we're looking at right now, we are in the first day of August, which is 5 months left in the year, but leaves us really only 4 months to get to December 1st and have this economic input available for our CR 102 filing, which, right now, in order to get across the finish line by December 1st, we have to have hearings at some point in November and have some time for the council to deliberate the content of the hearings. So the latest filing date that I've identified is October 22nd. If we file on October 22nd, the first hearings can occur on November 25th, which is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, which then if we had those hearings that day, we would then the Monday after Thanksgiving, that's our statutory deadline to adopt the codes. So that's not very feasible to target October 22nd as our filing date. So the next filing date that's available that gives us a little more time, essentially 2 more weeks, is October 1st. And that gives us the ability to have hearings early in November, have some time to deliberate the content of those hearings, and then make informed decisions on final adoption by December 1. So what that means is we have essentially 2 months to finish the tag review of the IRC and UPC. For all of our codes, we have to do economic impact analysis and draft the small business economic impact statements. The energy code has a benefit of having some third-party review with bringing some expertise to that. So that's a little bit more robust in its process, and I would like to in the future bring some third-party analysis to all of our codes. But we, spoke about funding for staff positions. We have to note that there's needs to be funding for additional economic analysis by third parties as well. So, where I'm looking at right now is that August, we have to complete the IRC review by like mid-September. We need to complete the amendment proposals by the IRC, and then by October 1, we need to be ready to file our CR 102s with the small business economic impact statement, with the preliminary cost benefit analysis, and have all of the rule drafting work done as well. In my view, the rule drafting and changes to WAC is the straightforward part. The economic analysis part is the hard part that's going to pose a challenge to us. So we've been talking about the work group of economic impact beginning to meet on some of these. But and that's our next agenda item, is to kind of talk about the work group of economic impact. But the short and skinny is we are still aiming for December 1 as our final adoption date. And we're looking at October 1st as our filing for CR 102 deadline. And Ken put it probably the most succinctly, the work is possible to be done, but there's going to be some burnout felt by folks to get across that finish line. There will be a brief reprieve after we get the CR 102s filed, but there's a lot of planning that has to happen for the hearings and things like that. It's not going to be a vacation at that point. But that if we can get the CR 102 done by October 1, we will be in a good position to come across the finish line by December 1. And there's a steep hill in front of us that we have to climb.
Yeah, thank you, Dustin. No, I think that's we know what's in front of us, and I think having clean dates on October 1st is if everyone's understanding. I'd asked this question to Dustin this morning. Those dates are set. It doesn't matter if you file October 2nd, it's going to roll into October 22nd before it's posted, I guess is the correct term, right?
Yeah, so the code reviser publishes to the state register.
Publishes.
And so they have filing deadlines, and based upon those filing deadlines, they have publication dates that they are pushing out the registers. So like you said, Todd, if we filed October 2nd, it's essentially like we filed October 22nd.
And then it kicks a 20-day period after that. So is that right? Before we have the hearing? Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
so there's the filing deadline, and then there's the publication date. Let me pop
Okay.
open one document here for you guys to see. This is what I'm going to show is the code revisers closing date calendar. There's a lot of information here, but I've got a highlight on here to identify I believe it's October 22nd, but the October 1 date's right behind it.
I was going to say, let's reinforce that October 1st date
Yes.
for now. Yeah.
So I highlighted this before we had our chat today.
Okay. And go ahead, Dustin.
So highlighted here is October 22nd. Let's look at the line right above here. All the different columns, I don't want to get into what those actually mean. We have register numbers. We always use this RDS column here. That means we've gone through the process of kind of submitting this to the code reviser to make sure the formatting is correct. It makes it so that our filing deadline can be as late as possible, and then our hearing can happen here. So if we file on October 1, the register that comes out in will be published on October 15th, and the soonest hearing we can have is going to be November 4th. And then we can have multiple hearings after that, but then we need to potentially have a council work session on codes, and then we have our final adoption meeting at some point after November 4th.
Okay. So Thank you, Dustin. That's a lot, but that's what we needed to talk about today. Couple thoughts here, and I'm something I'm aware of is if a significant change, like a substantive change comes in, and we had for some reason refile the CR 102 on that item, that creates a challenge for us, right? Because that kicks another 20-day window
If we,
in that
to my
scenario.
knowledge, we haven't refiled CR 102 in the past on the codes.
Okay.
That might be the least risky option if we had a very substantive change come through. But in the past, we have made changes that are more than editorial, based on public comment. And we justify those changes with some more rationale statements in a CR 103 filing. And then we file CR 103 for final adoption. But if we refiled CR 102 for every substantive change that changes the regulation, we potentially could be in a never-ending loop of, CR 102s, coming back from comment with more changes, as time goes on.
Okay. I think the bottom line there is, obviously it's best practice and we want to front end everything we can. So on the topics we know that are coming, and I think we know which ones, let's, do as much work up front with the proponents and stakeholders as we can. And then maybe we should talk about the work group a little bit now. Is that okay, Dustin?
That's okay.
And I'll recognize you in a second here, Patrick. So the idea, I've always had in my head that we're going to kick that in August now that we're past a couple of other milestones, especially with BRFW, so forth. And so I think I'd propose that we meet next week with that group and strategize. So it'd be a public meeting. We'll use it as a working session to start to get organized. Yeah, in my mind, the one, after having been through this at least once, essentially we are crowdsourcing it. I mean, we're going to do the work, and it's not a third party report. So I think the important thing there is that we start with the list of all the petitions and have a binary yes, no of the impact, so forth, and as the proponent submitted. And then we can start reviewing and flagging, the key ones that we, and start to prioritize, but get that list posted so that it's not just the work group's interpretation. We're also getting input from stakeholders on what we should be paying attention to, or which ones they would flag. And I think that's a good way we can start to just be very transparent about that list and keep improving it until we kind of converge on something that's acceptable. So go ahead, Tom. Tom first, and then Patrick. Yeah.
Yeah. Who all is on that work group again?
All the tag chairs.
Okay.
And not Roger. We talked about that in the meeting. So all the tag chairs, and that's a big group, and we also don't want to distract Ben and Angela too much right now while they've got their heads down on their 2 tags. So, okay, Patrick, go ahead.
Thank you. First, I'll say I appreciate that you're taking a hard, realistic look at the schedule ahead and what needs to be done and when it needs to get done for things to happen. I think it probably would have been better to do this quite a while ago, but I'm glad it's happening now. I have 2 questions. Number one, as an IRC tag member, what is the deadline for the IRC tag to complete their work in order for you to hit that deadline for your CR 102? Because it'll have to go through the committee and the council. And then number 2, as a stakeholder, how are you planning on gathering data for the small business economic impact statement? Are you thinking doing a survey? Are you thinking of doing listening sessions, possibly working with Araya? And if you have a rough idea of when that's likely to occur, I'm just trying to think ahead on how I can help you get data and feedback from industry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. And before Dustin goes, obviously we're not just talking about this now, right? The schedule is mandated to be posted and has been. I think what we're trying to do is review where we are and then very publicly talk about it and maybe even make adjustments to that schedule that we've posted if necessary. So, but thank you for that comment. Go ahead, Dustin.
So today being August 1st, and we're not quite through with the existing amendments report for IRC. I feel like for your specific question for the IRC, Patrick, I'm hoping that we're done with the report review by the end of August, if not before. So I'm hopefully maybe even mid-month. As far as getting all that done and proposals approved and moved to the council, being tag proposals, public proposals, and everything, ideally, I would look for it to be the beginning of September, but realistically, I'm thinking it's going to be more towards the mid-month. And so as we move towards that goal in mind, the work group of economic impact is not going to be focusing on UPC or IRC as we move forward. They'll focus on the stuff that we're already to the CR 101 process, or sorry, CR 102 process at the moment, and get all that done hopefully mid-September and be ready to embrace the IRC and UPC stuff in that last 2 weeks of September, if not hopefully more time than that. I think that the tag work that's ongoing for IRC and UPC right now will inform better than guessing where we might land right now. Because if we say we're going to get there, I guess the need is that we might need to do longer meetings, but we've heard from, our volunteers that 6-hour meetings, especially for potentially 2 days a week, that nobody has availability for that kind of commitment. And so it really depends on how much ground we can cover within those groups before we can get to those economic analysis portions. And as far as how we're trying to source that input, I believe that we're going to have I would like to engage with you, Patrick, as far as questionnaires and surveys going out. Talking with staff that have been here longer than I, surveys have been sent out in the past, and there hasn't been a lot of response to those. But any response is going to be better than nothing if we can send those out. And also as part of the component of getting the input, hopefully we can engage the stakeholders at the work group of economic impact, the proponents of the proposals at that same work group, so that when we publish a list to be deliberated, we can notify proponents of what's reasonably can be expected to be discussed at a meeting, bring them in to talk about their proposal and the economic impact, and get the input via survey and via the work group sessions.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think the key is let's be transparent. We'll get the list out as we start flagging them. In my experience, it becomes pretty clear who we need to engage. But these will be public meetings, and so we'll also be good participation there. But I think in the past, when we started flagging certain petitions, we knew who to reach out to, or we received that information directly as feedback. I'm just looking at the committee list. It doesn't show up in our committee list on our webpage, but we do. Where do we post that, Dustin?
Post what?
The work group.
I guess that's not something that's been drafted into the webpage. I can create that in the meeting schedules and agendas along with the rest of the committees in
That makes sense. I think that's worked well. So yeah. Okay. And just as I should know this, who chairs this?
You do.
That's what I thought. Okay. Thanks. I am representing the IBC on that also, but you're saying the council chair chairs that group. Okay. Thanks.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll try to call a meeting, knowing that's difficult to get all of those tag chairs, coordinated, but our goal will be in the next week or two. Go ahead, Ken.
The group one codes, Dustin, is the draft CR 102 done for the group one?
No. So we've still got draft work to do for the code language changes and in all of the economic impact stuff. So, staff can begin working on that stuff, but we've had a lot of irons in the fire, and that's been kind of pushed off down the road, and we're to the point where it has to happen.
Ken, is your question, what are we starting with?
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the CR 102 document before, and I'll just be straight up with you. Ray Shipman, when he was with the Building Code Council, I mean, he had a draft of the CR 102 for the fire code. And he just asked me to, hey, look over it and see if I'm missing anything. And so I would help go through it and on the side and try to help him out with it. I don't know how far down the road you are with a draft of something that you could actually reach out to some of us that could just get another set of eyes on it that maybe help, since you guys are staff short. And at the next state building code council meeting, we need to be bringing up to our legislative elected officials the lack of staff, the lack of funding, and get them to start pushing things. That's just a whole total side note here, but I'm just tired of our staff just getting run over constantly, and it's all based on we just don't have enough people to do this job. Just the city of Seattle, we have an entire staff that works on our building codes, mechanical codes, and plumbing codes, and it's probably 3 times the size of what SBCC has. So very, very frustrating to see that. But anyways, yeah, I was just offering that up. If you have drafts of the building code, the fire code, the group ones that are ready, that somebody else could just help with an extra set of eyes, I'm willing to volunteer my time, not representing the city of Seattle, but as a fire code consultant to review at least the IFC document. Thanks.
Well, I really appreciate that, and we're not ready to share drafts just yet. But here in the next week or two, I think we could probably have the code language change drafts ready to send out for some input from the tag members to make sure that we're catching all the amendments appropriately.
Okay. But just to be clear, we're not going to wait on the work group for economic impact. We're going to start with the spreadsheet of petitions that have moved forward. So, okay. All right. Thank you. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yes, thank you. So it sounds like we need to have the IRC stuff is going to have to be voted on by the council at their September meeting, and then it's going to leave staff less than 2 weeks to compile the entirety of the CR 102 and do the small business economic impact statement, which pretty much requires getting some sort of data feedback from affected industries, and then technically potentially have to do code work after that to mitigate any disproportionate impacts if there are any. And then you have the preliminary cost benefit analysis. I just trying to be realistic here. I think that's a practically impossible time frame for staff to get all of that done, and to give like industry appropriate time to look at everything and respond to whatever questionnaire or listening session, whatever you end up doing. I think it might be necessary to consider the heavy possibility that, at least on the residential side, it might have to get delayed a year, and that you're not going to be able to hit the December adoption timeline this year. You'll have to do it next year and then have it go into effect the year after. I'm just trying to be realistic. It's not my ideal scenario. I think there's actually some good code changes that we're looking forward to in this cycle, but realistically, I'm seeing, a very large amount of work trying to fit through a very small window. And so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. I think you might be a little too linear on that approach, though. I mean, yes, technically things happen in order like that, but I'm more of a designer. We build up the entire ill-defined problem, all at once, and we start then converging on that linear process. So another way of saying that is, I don't think we're waiting, for example, for that 2-week period, and the CR 102 process, actually preparing those is, I really doubt that it's going to wait until the actual, we know where it's converging is what I'm saying. So
I would
All-
also, we can't afford to wait until then. As we start discussing stuff and making recommendations with the IRC in particular, my thinking is that I will have to have a draft running of the WAC changes for the IRC. And, the downfall of that is that I might be making more than one change, as we discuss these code petitions. But, the draft work has to start before the council approves it. And then, potentially we come to that September meeting with a CR 102 draft, maybe not all of the economic input there, but hopefully the draft work, at least on the code change part, can be moving. But I do also recognize it, like Patrick said, it's a large amount of work in a small window.
Yep, here we are. We're going to start. Okay, thank you, everyone. Anything else on schedule? Everyone understand?
I would like to try to bring a updated schedule to the council meeting this month, just to
The
kind of
published chart. Yeah, I
Yes,
think
yeah,
that's
to
a good
formalize
idea.
it.
Yeah. I think that's important that we keep updating that as we learn more. Okay. Everyone know we're talking about? That's on the main 2024 page, upper left. Okay. Oh, Ken, go ahead. Sorry.
Have you guys thought of just adding additional state building code council meetings on the future meeting schedule and just have them every week for the month of August, every week possible for the month of September, just so you have them available for all of this all of this stuff that has to get done. So you're not just trying to load it all up on one meeting. You have it broken up in multiple meetings.
I have thought about the need for additional meetings. I think to front load all those out there and then potentially start canceling them would be an additional work that I would like to try to keep the staff from having to do. But the thought is there that as needed, we would schedule them and get them out there.
I was just thinking of, like, you have the group 1 code, you have the group 2 codes. You also have the breakup of each individual group 1 code. And we all know if discussions start going in individual code change proposals on that were part of that petition, it could become very lengthy. And I didn't know if you were even had thought about just breaking up the meetings based on whichever code it was. So then the interested parties would know, okay, this is the meeting that I'm going to attend. So they're not sitting around for 3 or 4 hours waiting to get it to an agenda item that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's a good point, Ken. There will be special meetings for sure. That's a good idea, though.
But if you already put them on the schedule, then the public would have an idea of which ones that they should put on their calendars to attend and what's going to get tackled versus just all of a sudden having a special public meeting assigned. And then if they're not, right up on it, they might already have something scheduled. So this gives everybody a time to look at their vacation schedule. And if they feel important enough to attend, they'll attend.
I think that's a good notion, Ken, and I'll have to discuss further with Todd and potentially put some special council meetings on the calendar.
Okay, I think we're getting there. Patrick, one more time.
Yeah, just a question. Is the schedule on today's meeting documents, is that updated to reflect the dates you've been talking about? Because it doesn't look like it matches the timeline.
No, that the only reason that's there is so if we wanted to show it, that it's reflective of what we last talked about at the council and approved.
Thank you.
Patrick, you're talking about the one that's published on the webpage?
Yeah, for this meeting.
It's listed as a separate document. Yeah, we have to have that schedule published. And I think that's what we're talking about, is updating it and having that approved by the council. Yeah. Okay. Okay. There's nothing else on that topic. What is next, Dustin? We already started talking about the work group. Is that what the next item was?
It is, and I think that we kind of maybe
I think we've got
covered
that.
there.
Yep.
That we were going to start meeting next week. I would like to target Wednesday at, you know, if that works, I think we would send out a poll, but we're gonna be having IRC meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the mornings.
Okay.
And so Wednesday is, and I want to try as much as possible to not have overlapping meetings of any council business. We have certain tag members that are on multiple tags and, you know, other interested parties that would maybe like to be at all the meetings. So I want to work the best way forward to try to not have concurrent meetings happening. So right now there's, you know, essentially 4 days of slots, AM and PM for meetings. They kind of work out, and it is apparent that in the next month, 2 months, that we're going to have a lot of those slots filled with meetings. And, you know, just to highlight another difficulty, to go to the meeting and be ready for another meeting in the afternoon and have meetings all day, every day, makes it hard to do any of the document preparation that we're talking about happening.
That's a true
But
statement.
that
Okay,
is
well,
the-
let's try that, because the first couple sessions will be working sessions anyway, so we won't be taking action. So,
okay.
okay, thank you. Okay, and then
Let me pull up the agenda and share it.
so then we're going on to agenda item 8, which is to discuss the full council agenda. And remind me, is our meeting date on the 15th? Is that correct?
Correct.
2 weeks from now?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I'm sharing now a draft agenda for that meeting. Based on some of the topics I anticipated having, we have a budget report that is something we need to do that happens about this time of year annually. I'll have a representative from DES Financial Services available to come and talk on this one and present the budget as has been drafted to date. And so I wanted to have that at the early part of the meeting, since they're still busy getting the budget finalized for DES and getting it submitted to Office of Financial Management. The next thing that we for sure need to have is the emergency rule request that we introduced at our last council meeting from the Washington State Fire Marshals. And then the schedule update, which we talked about bringing. And I don't think it's likely, but if the IRC or IRC tag got to the end of the reports review, to potentially bring those in, but that would be dependent on the work that actually happens. And then also potentially if the UPC tag gets through their amendment review and recommendations for the plumbing code, potentially bring that into this meeting. But I think that that's pretty ambitious, but I wanted to have that as part of the draft to discuss there.
Okay. Roger?
Yeah, I have a pretty good understanding of all of those items, except the budget. And I have also tried to get the message across when possible to our legislators that the budget, for all the work we're doing, the budget should be greater. And I think Ken's testimony about the size of staff for the state versus the city of Seattle is a very strong argument. So I guess I'm curious. I think the budget only comes up once a year, right? Where we talk about.
Yes.
So really this is the time of the year, the one meeting where we really can, and in my opinion, should make that statement very, very clear to our legislators. And I'm not sure the best way to do that. I certainly, I will offer both Patrick and Ken, you've kind of offered comments at the meeting today. I think there's one thing coming from Dustin and from council members, but when we start having testimony about the issue of volunteers and you know, needing more staff, and that comes from Ken, I'm going to say you know, you're tired of volunteering your time. We all appreciate it very, very much. I think that's a really strong testimony to have. So that's I wanted to I guess, clarify my thoughts and also kind of strategize it just about what that looks like and the questions and comments and discussion that we can have about that at that meeting.
Thank you, Roger. We got Tom and then Jay.
Yeah, I'm curious what the council action is on that. I know we've done it before, but I just don't recall. Do we have to pass and approve that budget, and then so that gets forwarded on, or how does that process look from the council action perspective?
It's pretty much the presentation and an acceptance of that. There's not a lot of room for I guess I would say not a lot is not the correct statement. There's really no room for modifications to be made. This is all based on appropriations, and the main source of funding for the SBCC is the permit surcharges. So there's $6.50 is kind of the baseline. Then there's that's for residential permits. Then for commercial permits, there's a $25 surcharge. And a small fee for each residential unit after the first one. And then the other source of, funding that we expect regularly is architect licensure fees. There's a fee on top of that licensure that comes to the SBCC. And since I've been here, there's been some appropriations from the legislature that enabled us to do some of the embodied carbon study, some of the single exit work. We got some money for that, but currently right now, the funding looking forward right now is just from the permit fees and the architecture licensure fees.
Well, if we didn't pass it, what would be the effect of that? Or if we didn't approve it, or whatever it is that we're actually doing. I mean, it seems more like it's only an informational piece with no action that has any effect.
I agree. The reason we bring it to this group is because it's written into statute that there should be some concurrence there. And I can discuss with the financial staff a little bit more about, we've talked about what input is desired or needed from the council. It's, in the past, the way it was being characterized as it is a kind of a rubber stamp action, and that's about it. But is doing it because it's in the statute that the council works with DES a little bit to do this.
Okay, well, maybe the ink's run out of the stamp pad this year. We'll see. Okay, thanks.
It is a tough way to run an org tied to housing starts, but go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. As we're looking at these staffing issues and perhaps a legislative ask, I remember when we were looking at this last year, we were, and especially like around doing agency request legislation, we had missed some internal deadline. And I'm wondering is there something that we could work on now on the staffing issues to start that process within DES and that? Because I know there's some complications with us making an ask for legislation versus reacting to legislation that's already out there.
And so my understanding is that if we're going to do agency proposed legislation, we still need to engage some sponsors for that legislation. And so the first step in exploring what that looks like is to engage our ex officio members. And then if they are not the sponsors that we're looking for, we then would, branch out from there and look for the legislators to support what we're trying to do. But that, I think that, explaining our need, traditionally in the past, I'm not sure if there's been much agency proposed legislation by SBCC. But everything that has, come down the line in the past, as I understand it, is as a result of kind of a need being identified by legislators, and then they draft the bill language. And so that's why I think the engagement with our ex officio members is important right now. As we get into short session next year, And really the need is to get us shored up for the 2027 cycle. And
Yeah.
so looking at some staffing asks, it would be a budget ask for us. So we would, potentially look for more expenditure authority to spend more on staff. And there's been talk, not necessarily any serious talk, but what it might look like if permit surcharges went up a little bit. With the environment of housing and everything being what it is, I don't think that a ask to increase permit surcharges is going to fly by the public very well at the moment. And so asking for more money in the environment we find ourselves in seems to be a moot point. But if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And so we can always explore that option.
Well, in the very least, I think you're right. It's a multi-year effort. And so maybe one of the things coming out of the budget item at the council is asking the council for direction to direct the legislative committee to work on some proposals to help address our staffing issues. And you had mentioned this as we were talking about economic impact, that it does help that we've gotten outside support on the energy code around economic impact. That may also be something we want to look at to say we would like some funding for that. But again, could be a long-term thing, but I think the issues are going to come up as we talk about schedule and we talk about budget. And one of the things that I think would help is if we start to have the conversation with our legislators on what needs to happen going in the future.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay. Tom.
Yeah, and just to add to all of that, we've had some meetings with certain legislators, somewhat recently, with regard to, the WUI and embodied carbon and so on and so forth, just to try and understand their intent and everything. And it seems like those legislators that are proposing, these measures that are, pretty aggressive as far as, the amount of time that it takes to sort it out and get it to be, that those people might be the ones that we just start dropping seeds every time we talk to them about something. Say, gosh, we're just, whatever you say, but just start planting the seeds everywhere, and I think that somewhere some of them will materialize. So
Yeah. Well, I think this is an important discussion. I think this is the appropriate place to have it, the executive committee. It's tricky because while we're a sub-agency with statutory authority to run our process and conduct the codes, or adopt, amend, and implement the codes, we're probably making somebody at DES from the governor's office nervous by having this conversation, right? So Dustin, can you help us figure out who that person is we're making nervous, and maybe we can facilitate kind of a conversation and help you, because I think that what we can do is we need to communicate, the effort this takes. I think some people know, but I think we need to document the effort it takes with volunteers, with staff, stakeholders, like to Ken's point. And then I'd also be curious, I know we have a lot of new members since Stoyan gave a good presentation a few years ago. I don't know if that presentation still exists he took his knowledge and compared California and Washington's process. And while that's an administrative process, he was given real numbers on the number of staff it takes to facilitate that and so forth compared to the way we do it. So I think that is a way we can definitely help.
And that report does still exist. It's there's been some research on what other states do to adopt their codes, and on the rough surface, most other states have more staff doing the code adoption process for the state as compared to Washington. And the one of the sentiments that I have heard frequently is that, you know, Washington puts forth one of the most advanced codes in the nation, but staff isn't funded necessarily the same.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a testament that we still managed to do that in the past. But the reality is the number of amendments being made on the Washington level continues to increase so that we can have that advanced code. But the staffing is not growing with that demand.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a comment here, and then we'll get back to what we're technically talking about the agenda here for August 15th. But go ahead, Ken, please.
Well, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Just a clerical thing on number 6. Just it's Washington State Association of Fire Marshals, so it's WSAFM.
Thank
So,
you.
that's all I have.
Hey, Ken, on that, since you're here, is there anything we're missing that we need to do more of to prepare for that item?
No,
I didn't
I'm
mean to
not
put you
gonna.
on the
Yeah,
spot. I just wanted to. Yeah.
I unfortunately in my role right now, I'm not able to comment on that.
Yep,
So,
that's fine. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just want to. We're all getting up to speed on it, so
okay.
okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, also just clerical, I think you probably copied agenda item number 1 there. I think we introduced Scott and Tom at the last
Oh,
meeting.
yeah, I meant to make edits and didn't change that one.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else that should be on there that you can think of? Is there a way to add more flexibility to 8 and 9? Just in, it might specifically be the reports, but it might just be we're giving
An update?
or you're implying here that we could actually take action on it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
only had them here as a food for thought, and that these
Okay.
might not actually come to this agenda based on the work that's completed at the tag.
Okay. We'll know as we get closer. So before you have to post this. Okay. Anything else? Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I'm sorry. To Tom's point, since the RCW does say that the building code council is supposed to approve the budget, I would love to find out, like he was saying, what happens if you don't approve the budget? What happens? And because it is an RCW that's your responsibility to approve it. It'd be great to find out what happens if you don't.
Which one is it? Thank you, Ken. I
The
can't find it.
Yeah, it's RCW 1927-074, item 1D. Approve a proposed
Okay.
budget for the operation of State Building Code Council. And then I guess my last point was, do you have the last proposed budget that we can compare to? Is that available?
Yes, I can definitely bring that.
Because that would be helpful too. So because it would be great if you're talking about the fees, and if there hasn't been and when the last fee increase was for building permits, if that was the main source of funding. And then we can maybe look at, comparisons of other cities that have raised their fees throughout the years, and the Building Code Council fees have not gotten raised.
Thank you, Ken. And Dustin, we're reviewing this in August because DES submits this.
Submits it to OF, the Office of Financial Management, here pretty soon. I was contemplating bringing the budget here, but there were some delays on the DES side of that, and we weren't quite ready for it. And so I made contact with those folks, and they will be ready for our August council meeting.
Is this a 2-year budget?
Yes.
I know.
But we do kind of touch it every year if there's updates needed.
Okay. That was helpful. Okay, anything else? Are we done with our agenda item?
I believe so.
Okay, that takes us to other business. Anything else?
I do not have any other business.
We got rain in Eastern Washington.
We do. As long as we don't have a lot of lightning with it, we'll be good. Okay, with that, we did it. Thank you. We are adjourned.
I appreciate the conversation today, everybody. It's informative and looking forward to making the magic happen.
Great. Happy Friday, everybody.
Yes, happy Friday.
Bye-bye.